Deakins. All right, lower it down, lower it down, lower it down. Thank you, guys.
Is this right? Okay. Good? All right.
All right. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good. Glad to be in San Diego.
Look at the view.
What a view.
Cool. All right. Well, let's get started.
Okay.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, here is what we're here to talk about today. It seems you guys have released a beautiful book by the name of Reflection. And today's conversation is going to be just a little bit about everything pretty much within the book, a little bit about the career that you've embarked upon, and more than anything, just getting to know you a little bit better. A lot of our audience here are filmmakers themselves, so we're excited to just dive right in. Cool.
Okay.
Let's go to the next slide.
You okay, Raj?
Perfect.
Right, that's it. That's
Perfect.
the best bit. Yeah.
We would be honored still. All right, so why should we care about images, and what is their power, Roger?
Start with an easy question.
Yeah, I mean,
Easy. Low ball.
why should we care? Why should we care about any kind of communication? I mean, people communicate in different ways. My life has started like from the images you first saw there. My images were about communicating from the get-go. I don't know, why should you care? I mean,
When I ask that, what I truly mean, that I want to know, is your work as an early documentarian, right? It was work that was very immersive. It was work that was about topics such as apartheid, such as, just difficult topics. Tell me a little bit more.
yeah, I wish all the films that I worked on were about things like that. They were about more directly about social issues. But sometimes you work on a film with people that have the same sensibility of you, maybe even the same view of society as you, and you work together and make something like Blade Runner. Right. Now that might not directly be about apartheid or whatever, but it's about the nature of being human and what makes us human and all the rest. But you can't always make, I wish you could, but you can't always make those hard-edged films like, something like Ken Loach has done all his life. Even Ken Loach at one point made a comedy about football.
Let's go on to the next slide. And I'll read the question for you guys, so you don't have to keep
Oh, okay.
So,
Except
all
I'm seeing
right.
the picture.
So the biggest question that I have, right, is that moment in the book on page 17, 16, when you mention being rejected from film school and having an entire year just to yourself to find your eye. Tell me a little bit about that time.
Well, I was very lucky. I mean, I went to art college because I didn't want to go and do a regular job. I mean, it was just like, that's what you did in the 60s. I didn't want to work on my dad's building site, so I went to art college. And at art college, I discovered still photography. And then a friend said the National Film School was opening up in the UK. And I thought, oh, well, the photography I've been doing is fairly sort of documentary. And I was like, quite that way inclined towards documentaries. I love watching documentaries. And so I applied to the film school and didn't get in. But as lucky as it was, though, I went to talk to the then principal of the film school to ask why I didn't get in. And he said there was a picture on his wall behind him, which was of a dray horse pulling a cart, and it was slightly out of focus. And he said, "That's filmic." And I said, "That's out of focus." It made no sense to me what was what. I went out, I left, this was London, I got the train back home thinking, I don't know. But as I was leaving the building, one of the other teachers, or was going to be a teacher at the National Film School, said to me, "Apply next year, you'll get in." So I had a year off, but I was very lucky because when I went back to art college just to sort of graduate, the principal said she had a friend that wanted to hire somebody to document country life in North Devon, you know, because the rural lifestyle was changing very, very quickly at that time. This is late 60s. And so I did that for a while. I did that for the year, you know.
And I will say that he's still trying to find the answer to the question, what is filmic?
Right.
Yeah, what is
Right.
filmic? I keep asking it in the book, actually. It's there, quite big. It's, what the hell is filmic? I don't know.
Kind of
And
reference.
it's like you asking me what the significance of an image is.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, everybody has a different,
Point of view.
yeah, really.
I didn't say he was going to be easy to ask questions of.
It's okay. It's okay. This is gonna be fun. So that kind of reminds me of one moment. I believe it was in the podcast that you mentioned about going back home, a small town, countryside, and being recognized by a fisherman for Jesse James and saying, "Hey, you got robbed." How does it make you feel to go back to a small town when you do these epic things in Hollywood and be recognized and respected?
Well, as I say in the book, that moment when I was queuing up to get some live sand eels from the fishermen that used to catch them, and they used them as bait. And somebody behind me in the queue, it was about 6 or 7 of 8 of us maybe, somebody said, "You were robbed." And I looked around, he said, "You were robbed because of Jesse James, you should have won the Oscar." And I thought, that meant more than anything else, really.
The first thing you thought, though, is I'm amazed he saw it
Well,
here in
I'm amazed he
Devon.
saw it, but then why he would know who I was anyway? I didn't know him.
Yeah, so just talk about a technical point within that movie, the Deakinizer effect. Can you talk to me a little bit about how it feels to be known and like have a whole style that I told my DP one time, "Hey, we need the Deakinizer look," and he's like,
Yeah, but it's funny because we made those lenses, we made them with the people at Otto Nemitz, the rental house, and they still have those lenses and they rent them out on commercials as Deakinizers.
Well, they
As though-
did call us up and say, "Can we rent them?"
Yeah,
And
they
call
rent
them this.
them out, yeah. But they were really, I mean, it came about because early on I was doing a film when I first started out, and I needed to do something with a vignette, and I had a different fact. So I stripped apart an old stills lens I had and took the front element and put it in front of like a 50mm on my movie camera,
"Wow."
and it gave me this wonderful effect. So I thought about that when we were doing Jesse James, and Andrew said he wanted the effect of, you know, the old-fashioned stills camera that took the actual pictures of Jesse James, for instance, but he wanted, you know, something like that, but not exactly that.
And we tried to do it digitally, but it didn't look
Yeah,
right.
It didn't look right. So we found this similar technique of putting a lens in front of the lens, you know, just to,
Wow.
And
Yeah.
interestingly enough, the studio was not as enamored
Right,
with
I
it.
heard that. I heard that.
it was a shame because we kind of cut back the use of it. And at the end, we were talking, Andrew and I, and said, well, we made a mistake now. We should have done more of it, not less.
Yeah, that movie, when I watched it just a couple months ago, and I was like, wow, like, this look is beautiful. But kind of a little point that I want to point out there, in another film, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? When you were given the reference of hand-tinted postcards?
Yeah, like it was hand-tinted, hand-painted, like it was a black and white thing, but painted. So the boys, Joel and Ethan, wanted something that was, yeah, full colour, but slightly faded and dry and dusty. And of course the problem was, and I said to Joel, the first thing I said, you say dry and dusty, but we're shooting in Mississippi in July, August. I mean, how does that really make sense? And he said, yeah, that's the problem. We have to figure that out.
Let's talk about the boys. So I read in the book that, and you put it very nonchalantly, and then the phone rang. Tell me a little bit about when that phone rings and how it changes your life to meet the Coen brothers.
But you have to explain what came before.
There was a lead up to that, because I did a film called Air America in Thailand, and I was one of the experiences I never wanted to repeat, because it was just like this vast crew. It was like a machine, and I didn't really want to be part of that kind of film.
You had a second unit you didn't even know about.
I had a second unit. There was a second unit shooting for a number of weeks, and I only found out because we were watching dailies. At the end of the day, we were all watching dailies, And all this footage came up, and I didn't remember shooting it. And I said, what is all this stuff? And I was
So you quit the film business after that movie?
Yeah, we got back. I got through the movie, and I got back, and I was living in London at the time, and I kind of sold up, and I moved back to Devon, where I'm from, and bought a little flat down in Devon. Yeah, and then the phone rang, yeah. And then I met Joel and Ethan in London, so it meant a lot, you know, because just that, you know, the kind of film I like doing is much more sort of small and kind of personal. I don't like doing the big effects films with, you know, big crews and stuff. I don't like that. It's not me.
The agent wasn't so sure he should do it. I don't know who these guys are. And Roger said, just send me the script.
Yeah, I asked who it was, and my agent said, are these two brothers? And I said, two brothers? Coen brothers? Yeah, the Coen. I said, send me the script.
Wow. And I think, just to speak a little bit on that point, right, your agent saying, I don't know about this. Early in the book, you speak about cruel passions and just walking onto the set and being told, yeah, there's some cinematographer the director hired.
Yeah, I was kind of straight out of film school, and I'd been doing the rounds of like Soho, where all the little film companies were at the time. Now there's not so much like that, but there were little companies doing, you know, pop promos, documentaries, industrial documentaries, stuff like that. So I'd been knocking on doors and showing my work around, and this one guy said, I'm not doing any pop promos at the moment, but I'll hire you if I do. He said, no, I'm doing a feature film. And I said, well, I'll do that. And it was really odd because he'd never directed a feature film before, and he was using a lot of his own money. And he looked at me, he said, yeah, okay. I nearly fell over. I didn't know what it was, and it was this thing, Cruel Passion, which was quite, risque at the time. I suppose now you wouldn't see the films now, nothing like it, but at the time it was, yeah.
So the first day?
And the first day I was on set, like always I get in early, and I was on the set thinking of how to approach light in this little space. And there were two people there, and one, it's in the book, there was one the AD and a carpenter, and they were discussing the cinematographer who was ex-film school and obviously would only last a couple of days. How could he possibly know what he was doing? So, yeah. And then he turned to me and said, who are you? And I said, I'm the cinematographer you're talking about.
That's a tough one.
So it was, yeah.
Let's go to the next one. Okay. So, just to kind of take a couple steps back and talk a little bit about the pop promos that we now call music videos. What did those teach you, and what was the relationship between the...
I'll bet you can hear that in the back.
Check.
You know, what did I learn doing those? I don't know. I mean, probably just to help me work fast, you know. I mean, those things were done in like a day or whatever. Sexual healing, we flew out to LA for a couple of days, and I'd never been to LA before, so, you know, I kind of had a bit of experience of the nightlife, so I wasn't really... anyway, we should not go into that, but anyway. We had like 2 days to shoot it, I think it was, and you work really fast, and it's off the cuff, and it was like almost like shooting a documentary with a few lamps, you know.
Tell me a little bit just about Marvin Gaye. I know this is super off topic, but when I saw that you shot that, I was like, you met Marvin Gaye? How was that experience?
Yeah, I can't really remember. I mean, I don't really remember talking to him very much. Really. I mean, no, you just sort of do it. He seemed a very nice guy, but I mean...
Across universes, but cool.
Not really. I mean, some people, it's like actors. Some actors, you'll spend a lot of the day talking to them. You know, when you're setting up, they might stay on the set and talk to you, and just like we're talking now. But, others, Marvin Gaye was fairly quiet. He kept himself to himself as far as I remember, you know.
That makes perfect sense, yeah. And I feel like one of those key points in the book that you reference is shooting Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, and George Clooney picking up a tripod, walking, being a part of the crew. How does hard work and just being a part of the hard work help an actor be a part of the larger production?
I think it's still, you know, it's partly the way Joel and Ethan work, you know. It is very much like a big family. They're a group of people collaborating
But I also think that it's kind of difficult sometimes for actors because they come on set and the crew's been working together for a long time and there's this camaraderie and you assume the actors want to be left alone. And so a lot of times I feel kind of bad for them and I do go up and talk to them. Nicole Kidman, she came in after we'd been shooting for a while, and I realized she was just standing in the corner with no one to talk to. And you go and talk to them, and you realize that, you know, they're part of the crew too. Of course.
You don't realize that there's also some of them are nervous themselves.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, everybody's nervous because they're trying to do the best they can for themselves, but also for the good of the movie, you know.
Yeah, the story about Richard Burton just stopping everyone saying, come together, and then what does he say to you guys?
Well, we got a message. It was like we'd been shooting with Richard Burton for a few days, and a message went round the set that Richard wanted to talk to us all at the end of the day.
And you were very young too, all of you.
We
right?
were all very young, and yeah, we all waited around for him to come out and talk to us at the end of the day. Very nervous, thinking he was going to, you know, give us what for, because we were so useless. And he came out and very genuinely said, you know, he just thanked us for one of the best experiences of his life, you know, and he knew he was kind of coming to the end of his career and life at that point because he was quite ill. So it was very moving. I've never forgotten that. He was very genuine.
Also said, didn't he, that when he came on set.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He said when he first came on set, it made him so nervous to see so many young people looking up at him. You know, and then you realize everybody is nervous when they're trying to do their best. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good note. Can we go to the next slide? All right. We went through this. But one question that I actually have here in relations to 1984. The look in 1984. That was your second, third feature?
Yeah, about my third or fourth, yeah.
How do you approach just developing such a unique style that early in your career and not feeling nervous or unsure?
Well, it's about a relationship with a director. I mean, Mike Radford in this case. We both wanted to shoot in black and white, and we couldn't have got the finance to do that. So we had to shoot a color in color negative. But then Mike said, well, isn't there a way we can, you know, desaturate it and stuff? So I kind of, with a lab, researched the ways that other cinematographers approach that kind of technique, and found that the great Keizu Miyagawa, Japanese cinematographer who worked with Kurosawa and a number of great movies, he had a process called silver tint. But he was a chemist before he was a cinematographer, and he never told anybody how it was done. But with the lab we were working with, they figured out what it might be. It was basically leaving the silver in the emulsion so that it acts as a black and white layer. So after a lot of experimentation, that's what we did, yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah. So I think one big key moment here that I found really interesting was just what you mentioned earlier, just being a part of a crew, sharing meals, having that experience of living in the same space, even meeting your future partner on a set.
Yeah, well, that's special.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me a little bit just of that experience of getting to know a crew so well.
Yeah, I mean, I was like working on locations, really. I mean, that's where I met James up in Dakota on a film. But I like the fact that the crew there's not really much else to do. If you're a location, I did a number of films in Africa, and you as a group then are concentrating on this one task. And at the end of the day, a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people watch dailies together, and there comes a great camaraderie in that way. And yeah, it's very special, I think, when you have that. Somebody said it was a perfect idea of socialism. Everybody doing what they can do best for a common purpose.
But it also depends, too, how people work together. I mean, we tended to work with the same crew, and we all had the same sort of attitudes. And when we would work on set, it would be pretty quiet. And when we did the Bond film, the production office complained, well, we never come to set because it's so quiet.
It's no fun, it's so quiet. But it was because everybody was concentrating on their job, and everybody was, there was no argument or nothing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think that was one of the most interesting parts, because that contrast of, for example, there was one mention in the book of a studio exec calling you saying, hey, these dailies are too yellow. Well,
that was on a film called Mountains of the Moon, and we were in the middle of Kenya. Yeah, and Bob Rafelson, the director, came to me over supper one night, and we were all sitting around the fire, and he came back from the Radio Shack. He said, the studio want to talk to you. And,
bad words.
Oh my God, here, I'm out of here, And I went to the radio. I said, yeah. And studio executive said, your dailies, Deakins, they're too yellow. Too yellow. Oh, they're not too yellow. What are you talking about? And I said, just out of interest, where are you watching the dailies? He said, I'm in the back of my car on the PCH. Now you think this was like the late 80s, 1980, I mean, it was like...
It wasn't a plasma TV.
No, it was nothing, no DIT.
Next slide, please.
Yeah, this is Mount of the Moon, actually, yeah.
Yeah. This
Yeah,
is a
it's
perfect
not too
segue.
yellow, it's a bit red.
I think one thing that I loved here, right, was just, and this comes back over and over and over. You mentioned how you do this in a film, and then it comes back later in your career. And by the time I'm getting to the end of the book, I'm seeing the pattern, like, oh, you figured it out. By the time you're on those 10th, 12th film, it's just, let's do what we did on Mountains of the Moon.
No, never.
No?
No, actually it never works like that.
No.
You kind of think it might, and you might think some things look similar, but I'm always approaching it like it's the first time I've done it, I remember we used to, Conrad Hall, great Conrad Hall was a friend, and we used to talk about this, and he said, yeah, every first day on set, he said, I go to the camera and just put my eye to the eyepiece, and everybody thinks I'm concentrating, but really I'm just trying to let my heart settle and figure out what I want to do. He said it's always like I've never done it before. And I thought I think he was honest saying that, because he was saying it partly to make me feel better, because that's how I feel. But I think it was true. I think he was being honest, and that's why hopefully the work is fresh. You're not doing it by rote. You're not. I mean, you can see it. I mean, I see it in some people's work, and especially some directors' work, and you think, oh yeah, they're just doing that again. But every script, every story, every group of people is different. So everything demands a different reaction to it.
That's why you really don't want to be told you have a style.
Yeah. I mean, it might be like in Mountains of the Moon in the campfire sequence. I mean, I went for darkness, and I remember having discussions with Bob Rafelson about that, and he said, where are you going to put the moonlight? And I said, well, if we don't have moonlight, it's about the darkness, it's about this battle. You don't really know what's going on. People come out of the darkness, and it's much more scary. So, maybe I've used that sort of idea again in some way, but then that's really about dark and light. I mean, you can see that in a still photograph of mine or whatever,
Oh, yeah, I think it makes perfect sense. I think more so with the gaffers and the ACs and gaining that trust. For example, in this shot, you mentioned that Biggles tells you, what if we do front harsh lighting? And that was something that you weren't very used to doing. But once you saw it, you were like, this looks really good. How does that trust kind of gain the more you work with your collaborators?
Well, that's it. I mean, that's why, as James was saying, we work with the same people over years and years, you know. It is about trust, but it's also about, like I said before, it's about creating a welcoming space for actors, and you want your set to be as quiet and as intimate as possible. And if you know people and you trust each other, you don't have to shout across what you want, you know, it's, you know what I mean?
It's also about when you're leading a group of people about making them part of the process as well, asking them, well, what do you think? And sometimes great ideas come up, sometimes they're not, but that's the only way that, it's the same way on a film too. A good director's listening to everyone and then choosing the ideas that he or she likes.
Yes, you were talking to a director on the podcast a few episodes ago, and they were saying, yeah, they're open to ideas from anywhere. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it's the final product that's important, not where the idea came from.
Yeah.
Speaking about the podcast, if you don't listen to Team Deakins, go to Spotify right now. Download, add it, do what you got to do, subscribe. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah, just another beautiful. Yeah. Next slide.
Oh, we're going back in time.
I know. It's a biopic. So tell me a little bit about this moment, just sailing around the world.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah. So I left film school, it's in the book. I left film school and I was lucky to do this one film, Cruel Passion, but I didn't really want my name on it, but you know, it was great. I got a bit of money and whatever. And then there was nothing, you know. And I was really trying to do documentaries. So I heard on the grapevine a television company wanted to make a film about the round the world yacht race and put some people on a yacht. So I sort of knocked on doors and said, look, I've spent all my childhood on the water, you know, I'm from film school, here's my work, I've shot these documentaries.
But you didn't know how to sail, right?
Not
Not
been in a
really.
sailing boat once, but I'd been I'd actually
Let's be
been
truthful.
probably in the cockpit with a glass of wine rather than anything else. I'd never really done anything. I got a little boat, which I've still got, a little boat.
But
that I go
that's
fishing
not a
in, but it's not
sailboat.
like sailing.
Sorry,
I've
but-
never been out of sight of land, so you know, it's all a bit of a stretch, really. But I said, yeah, I'm from Torquay, you know, it's Francis Drake, you know, all these wonderful sailors come from down there. So, yeah, I got the job and then realised what I'd agreed to do.
It was hilarious because earlier I was reading the book and then someone calls me, one of my close friends, and says, hey, do you want to sail around the world with me? And I'm like, no. And then I'm reading your book and I see it and I'm like, wait, Roger did it? I'm like, I might have to do
but
it.
you got to think, I mean, there was really not a lot going on. I knew that, you know, it was going to take nearly a year of my life.
Yeah.
But I thought I didn't really have any I was fairly by myself at the time, and I thought it was an opportunity. If I come back after a year and it's a film, people are gonna take notice if the film's any good, so that's up to me. And if I said no, I thought, well, it's such an opportunity. How many people get to sail around the world? I mean, I love the ocean and stuff, so I thought, yeah, might as well go for it.
Yeah, but when you came back and you went into the house,
Well,
there
yeah,
were
there was
two
that.
toothbrushes in the
Yeah, there was,
sink because
yeah,
the girlfriend had moved on.
Yeah.
I like that story.
Old film story, isn't it? I mean, you go away for a year. I mean, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, my wife shut the idea down. She was like, you're not going anywhere.
But you know, I gotta say,
Here we go.
There's very few days go by. There's very few days go by where I don't think about that experience. I'm sitting there, standing there, looking out at the ocean. It's there, you know. It's part of me. So I'm really glad I said yes.
That's beautiful. Well, Yeah, let's pass this one. We went through this pretty well. Yeah, this is another key point. Early on in Bart and Fink, when Joel and Ethan started kind of to just trust you, there was a part of the book where you said you would suggest something, let's connect these shots. And they would say, yeah, how did that make you feel?
Well, it was interesting on Bar and Pink because that was the first thing we shot. It was a storyboarded as a series of little cuts, and I suggested why don't we put them together in one fluid shot. And,
Wasn't that the first day
It
too?
was the first day, yeah.
So they didn't
So
know
we
you.
actually we did that. We prepped it the day before we started shooting. So we went in early on the morning of the shoot day, set up this Lumar crane to do this shot, and we were finished shooting by about 11 o'clock in the morning, if not earlier.
Nice.
And then Ethan turned to me and says, "But what are we going to do now?" And I said, "That's up to you." He said, "Well, there's nothing what can we do? Because lunch will be ready in a couple of hours and everybody will go home." No, because they won't stay for lunch. So, and that's happened a few times, but it was funny it happened on the first day.
That's beautiful. Let's go to the next slide. This shot. Wow. In the book, when you mention just the naturalistic style that you hold close to your heart, shooting this in real fire, what does that make you feel? How is the difference between doing this in CGI and doing it in real life?
Well, that's a whole conversation, isn't it? I don't like the volume. I don't like effects. I mean, this was really Joel and Ethan's wish that we did it as live as possible, and there's no effects in it. I mean, there's effects, but what it is gas pipes built into the set walls. So the effects guy turns the gas on and lights the fire, and then the actors go in
And run.
Bruce, Hammy, the dolly grip and I were in like asbestos suits with all this gel over us. But the actors, I mean, John Goodman, for instance, luckily he had to look like he was sweating because the sweat's actually this fire gel all over him. But I mean, it was quite intense, you know. But you say, what affected it? It is a difference. Well, the difference is it's just the feeling of it. I don't know. You can't necessarily quantify it, but it's like if you see an AI-generated image. No, I mean, they look fantastic. I mean, no, they do. There was a shot, like 2 years ago, somebody did an AI shot of like a cliffside of a lighthouse up near Malibu or something, and you go, wow, is that AI? That's amazing. But there's still something about it that, in the end, slightly dead.
Yeah, I feel like that happens a lot in the commercial world where the clients will come to us and say, can you make it look like this? And we're like, that's AI. I don't think the world works that way.
Yeah.
They're like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Awesome. So, James, this is for you.
Thank you.
I would love to know, just starting off script supervising, how did that prepare you to become Roger's creative partner?
Well, definitely you learn to organize, and that's come in handy, right? Okay, you tell me.
When we met, we were working together, right? I was a cinematographer, James was script supervisor. So we would be discussing what shots were necessary for a scene. You know, obviously Mike Apted, the director, was in on this as well. We'd all be talking about what's needed for this scene. What are we missing? Is this eye line right? If we want to cut from this to this, do we need something to stitch it together, or can we cut across the line? So we had this working relationship, and that worked so well, and we got on so well that it became something else, you know, and it's been the same since, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it makes us an incredibly boring couple, especially when we're shooting, because on the weekends, we can't stop talking about the shoot, even though we say we're not going to talk about it anymore, so.
Right.
Yeah, I think you're talking about me, not yourself.
No.
Yeah. And there's another question here for you, James, which is, I know.
Oh, God.
I have a lot of questions. One question that I left out but that I found fascinating was the name of film game that you would play with Martin Scorsese? That was awesome. Could you tell me just a little bit about that?
We were in Morocco, and we had some long setups, and I would be sitting next to him, and we developed this thing where he would try and stump me on a film, I would try and stump him on a film. Needless to say, I don't think I ever won, but he would list out films. Oh yeah, I know, and then he'd come up with one that I'd never even heard of. So then he'd say, okay, I'll get a VHS in, and it was only, and he'd get a VHS into us, and we would. So Roger and I watched Shakes the Clown and all kinds of weird films. But it was only at the very
relevant to Kundun, I must say.
But it was only at the very end of the shoot when the production office told me, we hated you. And I said, why? And he said, because every time a film had to be brought in Morocco, you have to have, they'll confiscate it, you can't get it in. So we had to get someone from Italy to pack it in their luggage and bring it in. I had no idea. I know.
Oh my God. To kind of connect it now back to this, there's something in the book that I found just fascinating, which is kind of going back.
Disappointing, really?
A lot of things. But one little kind of like side note about life and just looking through a lens and saying, hey, I'm on top of a helicopter, we're flying, I'm afraid of heights, and saying there's a different reality. And you mentioned that you noticed that. When was the first time you noticed Roger went into a different reality?
I noticed it in myself when we were shooting and there was a car coming right to the camera, and I always would stand by the camera, and I should not have been there, but the car just managed to miss the camera, and I realized I should have been a little more scared. And then I realized it's because you're thinking about the frame, and then...
Yeah, there was a famous footage of a documentary cameraman filming the guy that shoots him dead. And the camera just collapses.
Aren't you cheering?
Because that's obviously the extreme version.
Right.
But you are distanced from reality in some way. I've always felt that I took up still photography and then filming. And why I always operate is because I kind of hide behind the camera. It is my way of kind of putting something between me and reality. And I'm actually a fairly shy person, so I think that really was part of it.
That's beautiful. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah. This is a little just kind of note that I found in Sid and Nancy, which I've heard you speak about multiple times now, but I thought would be very helpful for the audience, is when you get nervous and you begin to start to overlight. Can you talk a little bit just about how that happened on Sid and Nancy?
I was very aware of it on Sid and Nancy, that watching a scene late, it was late in the shoot, right towards the end of the shoot. It was something I was very nervous about lighting. And when I was watching the dailies, I realized I'd got stressed out, and I'd probably been tired at the end of a long day, and I just overlived, and I think it's easy to do. It's not so easy to do now because you've got a calibrated monitor and everybody can see what you're doing. But back then, you're wandering around with a light meter, and sometimes you don't believe your meter, and you kind of open up or spot in a light a bit hotter or something. And it's partly just because of your own insecurity and the sort of stress level you're under.
Can we go to the next slide? Okay, so this specifically, given the region that we're in, obviously this shot in Juarez, right? It was more on New Mexico?
Actually we shot in Mexico City. Juarez was too dangerous. They wouldn't let us go there, so we went Mexico City. But the actual bridge is actually in a parking lot just outside of Santa Fe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Patrice, our production designer, it was great because we said, well, if you put a kind of canvas wall either side, we only had to CG in the far distance at either end, and we didn't really see one direction very much. So it was very little CG. We had everything
And
really in camera.
we obviously had a lot more control, which was really important, and it was a fairly complicated sequence, so we could organize the way that it was
I
shot
think it
a
was
lot easier.
one of the funniest scouts I think I did with Denny was wandering across the Bridge of America, you know, between El Paso and Juarez, isn't it? And you know, we're crossing the line, and there's a big kind of a big golden eagle and all that crap.
Yep.
And we're thinking, well, even if they could give us permission, really, we're going to do a shootout scene here, this close to. No way, no. Yeah. But it was great research, but you know, there's no way. You knew there was no way of doing it, and it was funny because doing a similar border scene with Joel and Ethan on No Country for Old Men, you just know you're never going to. We looked at all the border posts thinking we could do one, surely. No. And then we ended up using a overpass on a freeway and just making it look like instead of the freeway below, it was where the river was, and we put up a few, you know, the guard posts went in, and yeah, it was easy.
Yeah, right.
Wow. Yeah, and just one more question on this one. So what was it like building this look with Denis? And just really, because the tone of that film is just intense. How did you guys kind of understanding that topic and just overall the severity of that situation, how did you guys do it as respectfully as you did and as intensely as it became?
Well, I think that really came from doing Prisoners with Denis because, you know, the script of Prisoners, like the script of Sicario, in different hands would have been a very, very different film. I mean, Prisoners could have been sort of gothic horror kind of film.
Yeah.
And yes, Sicario, I mean, they made a second one, didn't they? But I mean, it's very easy to make it into a sort of action film. Yeah, really, what is it about? And you know, when you saw the references of that period and what was really happening, and it's totally irresponsible to take a subject like that and make it into an action movie. Totally irresponsible. But on the other hand, you want to get across the subject and what you have to say about it to a larger audience. So there's a balance there, and I think Denny, he did a fantastic job in the balance in Sicario. I think it was really, really brilliant.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for the way you guys handled that topic. Thank you.
I think also Benicio was such a great actor, and he would come up to Denis, never seen an actor do this, and say, you know all these lines? I don't think I need to say them. I could say them on my face, and of course you could, and it makes it much more tense.
And then Josh would say, I'll say them. If you're listening, Josh.
Let's go to the next slide. That's cool. All right. So this one, just one of my favorite parts of the book as well, is what you say here. What does looking good mean in that context? Could you explain it a bit? What does it mean to look good when the places just aren't pretty, like a bathroom?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, you know, it's kind of odd lighting Jeff Bridges with a single 100-watt bulb, isn't it? Because that's all that was.
Yeah.
But it looks right. To me, it does anyway. I don't care what anybody else thinks.
That's how you should be.
Thank you. No, yeah, that's the thing. It's like with Sicario trying to make the action more action and exciting, or it's like trying to make images look more attractive or beautiful or more cool for the sake of doing so. But then you lose what you're trying to reflect in the script, I think.
Oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, perfect. So my question here is, you kind of going back to Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, and shooting in Mississippi, sun, green, everything was lush. You said, I don't know how this is going to look. And they say, oh no, it's not going to look like this. And you were like, what is it going to look like? And using DI here to really accomplish a look, why did you call it cheating?
Well, I don't think it's cheating. I don't think AI is cheating if you've got a reason for making a film with it and a decent story and something to say. I don't care what you use. But when I was when we were at the clubhouse, the ASC one time, you know, you hear different conversations, and a couple of people said it was cheating. And I think it was in a magazine, somebody said it was like cheating using digital technology.
That's because it was so early in the process.
It was the first film that did a DI, you know, digital finish. And what would they say now then?
Right. Yeah, no, that was great. If you guys haven't seen that movie, the look of that movie is beautiful. Let's go to the
we did do some some tests before we started shooting, and we did, you know, go through a digital transfer and back recorded out the film to see what it looked like. I mean, it looked like shit.
Yeah.
But Joel and Ethan said, well, yeah, but we have a year between starting shooting and the final, you know, finish of the film. So we think, let's take a chance that in a year the technology will be there. You know,
Talk about going on faith.
Yeah, so it was really.
And the technology wasn't all there, because when we were working on it, they were actually using the negative, and it was going back and forth and back when you're making corrections, and you could get to the very end after a week and a half or something of a reel, and then the computer crashed because it really was not ready yet.
Yeah, we lost time. We lost 5 or 6 days' work.
Yeah, and at the end you said, I'm never doing another DI again. Well, that...
I didn't on the next one.
No, you know.
Let's go to the next slide. Yeah, no, this is just, again, a reflection on the look here and as comparison to just DI, but let's go to the next one. Okay, perfect. This is another one of my favorite moments is just in the page 189, The Man Who Wasn't There, as pure cinema, the perfect sequence. I thought that was a really interesting statement. What does purity mean to you in cinema?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a funny way of expressing it, really. But there's a sequence in.
You said it.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, I say some weird things. No, there's a sequence in The Man Who Wasn't There that I think is as perfect as any sequence I've worked on, anyway. Which is the whole sequence when Ed Crane goes back to the Nerdlingers and kills Big Dave. And it starts with him telling us, the audience, how he met his wife, Doris, who's in bed. And then the phone rings, and then after the murder, he drives back and he sits down on the bed again and finishes the story he's been telling us, the audience, about how he met Doris. And it's just something about that I don't know, I can't explain why it works, because of performance, acting, script, everything together creates this wonderful sort of piece of poetry, but it's so dark. Yeah. I don't know, what's the point of an image? You know, I don't know.
Well, we're back to the beginning.
Perfect. Let's go into the next one. Okay, this is something that I really wanted to ask because I can't wrap my head around. So, understanding, right, when you were a little kid watching Mickey Mouse, Felix the Cat, Popeye, and just admiring that work, and then going in and starting to do working or helping on Wall-E, and then doing Rango, and then doing a little bit of help on How to Train Your Dragon. Everything that you speak about is very naturalistic, and how did you kind of come up with the idea of, you know what, I'll take a jab at animation?
Well, no, we were kind of consulting, so I've got to say that first. But yeah, on Wall-E, we went in and did I did a lighting demonstration at Pixar first off, and
because the producer had contacted me and said,
Yeah.
would you do it? So we thought, oh, okay, but we didn't know that...
Yeah, that was kind of a funny story, the demonstration, because I wondered what to do, and I thought, well, why don't I do something that I think they'll think a cinematographer does? So I lit in a way that somebody might have lit in the 50s in Hollywood. You know, I lit with hard sources, direct light, lots of flags. But I kept it up for about 25 minutes, I think, and then I couldn't go any further. I think I had an Alexa digital camera then. So I panned it round, and there was an electrician leaning on a big work light like that. Yeah. And I panned it round and framed him up, and I said, no, that's how I light. what I've been doing is what you think I do, but it's not what I do. What I do is what you're looking at now. And that's really, then we were asked to be involved in Wall-E, and from Wall-E went on to Rango, and How to Train Your Dragon, we worked on all three, and we actually scouted with Dean in Svalbard, looking at the ice and looking at reality, and you know, it was trying to bring more reality into animation, but it was also trying to use lighting a bit more in animation. Because there was a terrible thing that at some point that animation became, you put on like a wide lens on your computer and just pan around everything and follow the action, and the lighting was just dead flat. And I thought, well, you know, well, nobody's really using shadow and really molding it.
I think also the software that they had didn't really understand lighting. So if you were to put a light here, the bounce light had to be another light. So, and at one point we had a meeting with the DreamWorks technical team who wrote the software, and they just asked questions about light. Well, what happens when this happens? You know, and they just didn't. And they never really thought about light before. They just thought about coding.
Yeah, it's funny. There's so disconnect between what actually light does and what people think it does. I'm bouncing my hand into James's face.
Yeah, let's move along.
Oh my god. Yeah, and something that I found funny about that, right, is like James' skin is obviously very different from Rango's skin, who is scaly and like, and then the mouse who has this fluffy hair. How did you approach lighting these characters, doing a naturalistic?
Well, you keep saying me, but it wasn't. It was a whole lot of people, and this was
Gore.
Tim. Yeah, but Tim.
Yeah.
Tim at ILM anyway was in charge of working out how the light would affect each of the characters. Because as you said, you know, a character with fur is very different than a gecko with scales. So we had to do a lot of testing of that, the kind of light that would work best on each character. I think that's come on. No, Tim Alexander, that's who it was. I think the techniques have come on so much now that you don't have to do so much.
The techniques and the software, because before it was, it should look like this. Well, how are we going to make this software? Right. It's not just one button. You have to figure it out.
Yeah, materials, like materials that are in a computer program, would react different to the way you light them. You way to lit them, but now maybe it doesn't happen. Well, it certainly doesn't, because
yeah, matching reality I think is gotten a lot better now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we go to the next slide? Okay, perfect. Now we're going to get into more, less, you know, this has been very like pinpoint questions. Now I want to just talk a little bit about more the philosophy of cinematography and more of your character as, you know, like
your character. Sorry, you're on.
And let me ask you. So one thing that I noticed is just your humility, right? Being very humble, being from a small town, being very, very, at the same time, from this.
I used to boast about the fish I was catching.
You still do.
Yeah, and like
he's hard to talk to, isn't he?
I was like, wait, okay, let me bring it back. So yeah, like how are you so humble, man? Like that's my question, really. You're the GOAT. Like wow.
You know, I go
You're
running.
turning red,
I go running on the beach, and one day I came back. I said, it's really weird. Somebody on his bike came past me and said, "You're a goat."
You didn't know. He didn't know.
Deeply offended.
You are the GOAT.
I explained what it meant.
It's ridiculous. Come on, that is serious, please.
Oh yeah.
I've been very, very lucky. I've also taken the chances when they came. Like I took the chance of going on the yacht. And I came back with something that gave me...
Without a girlfriend, but
I came back and part of my pay was a 60mm camera that I'd taken with me. So then I'm going off to do a film in Eritrea about the war in Eritrea 80s. And then I'm doing other documentaries, and then suddenly I'm getting asked to do feature films, and wow.
But part of it too is not taking certain things that even though you needed the money and it was coming up and it was a lot of money, not taking it because you didn't feel it.
But the point is, I'm not a goat or anything. I mean, come on, it's silly. I've been very, very lucky.
Right.
I've been very lucky to work with some wonderful people on really good material.
Yeah.
And with some great actors. I mean, 1984 was in many ways a highlight of my life professionally because, professionally.
I didn't know why you were doing that. Right, okay.
But I mean,
not the wedding.
To be doing that with those actors, be working on a story that was actually, you had to read 1984 when you were at school. It's compulsory reading, and it damn well should be now. And to be able to work on something like that with a bunch of people you really liked and with those actors, I mean, that's kind of special. That's really special.
Yeah.
I think he doesn't also quite realize what his eye is when, because when we're timing a movie, you sometimes startle the timer because you really can see that a tiny bit of blue will make the change. But when we first got married, we moved into this house and I was all excited about decorating, and I'd gone out and I saw this lamp and I came back, luckily I didn't buy it, I came back and said, oh yeah, no, I found this great lamp that would be great. Okay, wait a minute, what is this and what color shade does it have? I think it's sort of yellow. Well, that wouldn't be good, it's by the blue light of the window. And I thought, oh my God, I'm never gonna buy a lamp again.
I still couldn't figure out I was overlighting when I was overlighting.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. All right, this is one of the last questions. So my question here really is just, for young cinematographers, could you expand on what you wrote on this page? The beautiful thing about learning is that no one can take it away from you. Page 45.
Yeah, whose quote is that? There's quotes all the way through the book. No, the beautiful thing about no one can take it away from you is I'm quoting somebody there, and I forget who it was.
They'll be calling you. No, I'm kidding. Yeah.
He's dead, so if he does, it'll be really interesting.
My God, we're going off topic here.
No, but I think it's a great quote. I mean, there's quotes all through the book that I think relate to what I'm talking about, or that have meant something to me, what they say. And I think that is the beautiful thing about learning, the beautiful thing about experience. Like, why was there the experience of sailing around the world in a yacht? I mean, that's there, that's part of me now, and that's really a really great part of me, you know?
I think also for young cinematographers, it's important to go out on your own and take your phone and shoot things, and then look at it and say, I like this, but I don't like that. Now, why is that? And to sort of get to know your eye and get to know what you respond to, because you can't do something in somebody else's eye. It never quite works. So
that was the great thing about at art college when I discovered still photography. It was really because there was a guy there called Roger Main, who was one of the first street photographers in the UK. Great guy. And the first thing he said to us was, I can't teach you photography. And there's a quote in the book from Robert Doisneau, great photographer. He said, if I knew how to take a great photograph, I would do it every time. And I thought that's really interesting, because Roger Main would say, go out and shoot images, and then we'd process them, and in the darkroom we'd put them all up on the wall. All the different students would say this is their favourite shot, and they'd put them on the wall, and then we would discuss. And it goes back again to your first question, what's the point of an image? Because everybody had, the images were all different. Everybody had a different reason for the image they'd taken, you know? And who's to say one is better than the other? There's none, really. You just, And my advice to anybody starting out was find your own way of seeing things. Find images that mean something to you. Don't care what anybody else thinks. Find something that actually affects you and concentrate on that.
Cool. Beautiful. Let's go to the next slide. I believe
Yeah.
so and I think you just wrapped it up truly. What single truth about light, patience, or just living a creative life would you want everyone here to carry forward?
Just be honest, eh?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, Roger, James, thank you both so much for your time. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Super duper grateful. So, thank you.